Metroidvanias may be one of the more populous genres in the indie market today, because these games like to combine the best elements of Metroid and Castlevania and give them their own twist to turn the games into their own thing. Among those games, I can tell you with confidence that Hollow Knight may be one of the few true Metroidvanias out there, because not only does it combine the elements of the two games already mentioned, but it manages to become a sort of true successor to these games in both tone, gameplay, and atmosphere. In the game, you play as the titular Hollow Knight, a silent little bug that manages to make its way to the fading and dying kingdom of Hallownest. A once thriving kingdom now riddled with corpses, hostile creatures, and citizens that have now become mindless husks due to an infection that has been plaguing the entire kingdom. Most of the story and the plot of this game is never really told to you via cutscenes, but rather you do have to figure out the plot on your own by speaking to NPCs, finding lore texts riddled around the map, and by simply exploring around. And that is arguably one of the best qualities of the game, because the game never really holds your hand outside of a few minor tutorials. Everything in this game must be earned, from the plot to your upgrades to simply making progress. Case in point, in order to figure out where you are in the world, you first have to find a map maker in each of the areas of the game. Once you find the map maker, you actually have to buy the markers for your map, and you even have to buy a tool that will let you update the map for wherever you are, because every single time you are giving an incomplete map. So the game is constantly incentivizing you to explore the world on your own, make your way back to buy the necessary things in order to continue exploring, and to even make it a priority to find the fast travel stations and so on and so forth. It's pretty brilliant, and it really makes for some really nice and very organic gameplay. Speaking of the gameplay, the combat in Hollow Knight can be very simplistic at first glance. It's just use your attack button and that's very much it. But what the game lacks in combo systems or complex moves to pull, it makes up for it in some very interesting depths. Because the game is in 2D, most of your combat is going to be spent dodging enemy attacks via jumping, dashing, and all sorts of other stuff. It really makes for some very intense and very fluid combat. I will argue that it almost feels like you and the enemies, especially the bosses, are dancing, and it's just a very fantastic feeling. The game doesn't really have anything in terms of stats. While you can upgrade your nail in order to deal more damage, those upgrades are very scarce and you're not going to be making it into the blacksmith until very late into the game. Which means that the game literally has no leveling system, there's no experience points. All you ever earn in the game is money, and the game drops money like it's candy, so the leveling up that you will usually expect in games like this, it comes to you organically. It's not your character that levels up, it's you. It's the player that eventually gets good at the game. It is the player that gets to learn the mechanics and starts to dominate each and every new power they obtain. It is the player who learns the patterns of the enemies, that learns how to deal with these enemies, and it is also the player who ends up finding everything and anything by themselves. It is a sense of growth that it's pretty rare in games these days, especially with story-driven games that will hold your hand and prevent you from doing anything. Hollow Knight, as I had mentioned before, is the kind of game that will let you do anything via gameplay. Everything that happens in the game is by your own actions, and it is one of the best feelings you will get to have as a gamer. It is true that there is a share of gamers that do not enjoy this kind of gameplay and will rather get a more streamlined experience. But for me, having a game where you can have your own adventure at your own pace and explore any levels, tell your heart's content, and finding everything organically, is what makes Hollow Knight nothing short of a masterpiece. It is no exaggeration when I say that this is one of the best games I had the pleasure to play in my life. And for that, and many other reasons I am not going to mention because it will spoil the entire experience, I am going to give Hollow Knight a very well deserved and very perfect 10 out of 10. This game is very much a new classic for me, and it is one that I will be more than happy to revisit from time to time. And it is also a nice testament to the fact that single-player games are alive and well if you know where to look. I am Brother42, and I'll be seeing you all in the next one.